Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Agency Insider Show. I'm your host, Navneet Kaushal. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Mary Haynes, a true getter and master of SEO, founder of Mary Haynes Consulting, author, speaker, and one of the most respected voice on Google algorithm, EEAT, and the evolving world of search. Mary, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this chat.
Yes. So let's start with your journey and SEO evolution. You started your career in a veterinary medicine. Is that correct?
It's kind of a weird jump, right? That like, why is a veterinarian talking about SEO and now AI? I loved my job as a vet. I really loved the diagnostics the best. I really enjoyed surgery as well. And one of our clients was the Prime Minister of Canada's pets, actually. So I mean, I really loved what I did. And in 2008, just out of for interest's sake, I started looking at what Google was doing and got fascinated with the idea that this algorithm that's basically just math can decide which businesses get recommended to people, which websites get recommended. So it was a hobby for me. I made my own little horrible veterinary website, but it started to make me some money. And then by 2012, if you remember, were you around when the penguin algorithm happened? Yeah. And it was devastating to so many businesses. So I was on bed rest at the time I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I had all this time to just sort of try to figure it out. And by the time I was ready to go back to work after my maternity leave, I was making more money just working from my couch. I was really enjoying trying to help all these businesses and having some good success as well. And so I thought, maybe I'll just stay home and learn about Google. And then since then, so much has happened. I started an agency, ran an agency for a few years. Now I'm back to just solo consulting again. And then AI happened, which, we're going to talk about, but it really blew my mind that I can see the world is changing so much. And I feel really honored and privileged to, be able to be one of the ones who figures this out and helps people adapt. So yeah, kind of a different career trajectory.
Right. So I had a guest on my show who were teacher and came into SEO. So yours is one of the most unique one I had till now. But I believe most of the SEO we practitioners, including myself, are an accidental SEO. It's not a choice. It's just accidental.
Yeah.
So all we've been doing, I've been doing SEO for now 23 years. So that is why I also got across accidentally itself.
And what were you before you were in SEO?
I was doing my MBA at that time. While doing research, I came across Alta Vista. It was just setting. I came across Google, and then I put my website for 4 pages testing out. Okay, what is it? Just like you put, and then I started getting called. Do you do SEO? And I learned never to say no.
Yeah. Try stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. Do you remember Excite? I used to use Excite all the time. And in vet school, I would be always in the computer lab trying to understand, like, how does this thing work? Long time ago. So, wow, 23 years.
Yeah, right. So now your early work on Google's Penguin algorithm made you a sought after consultant. Now, looking back, what do you think made you so effective at decoding Google updates when so few others could?
I think the answer to that is that I've always been willing to share my thoughts. So at the time, I was in the SEO chat forums, which they don't exist anymore. But it was such a great forum where there were a bunch of us. I was just chatting the other day with Nick Leroy. I don't know if you know him, but we were good friends back in 2008 in trying to learn these algorithms in the SEO chat forums. And we would just put out theories, and so I'm very good at seeing patterns. And at first, we didn't even know that Penguin was about links. And so it seemed really obvious to me that the sites that were, and I wasn't getting paid to look at these sites. It was just out of a hobby. I'd look at I've been paying for Ahrefs since for many years, and I would look at their backlinks and see that, like, wow, almost all these sites had backlinks that were totally made for SEO, that, like, you know, had keyword anchors, and you could see that it was about links. So what I did was, I first started with penalty removal with manual actions, which was different than the algorithmic penguin action. And penalty removal, some guy came to me on the forum and said, I'll pay you $300 if you can remove this unnatural links penalty. And I was like, no, I'm a vet. This is just a hobby. Like, I don't do this for money. But I thought, well, you know, I'm sitting at home, nothing to do, I might as well. And in doing that, I had to review all of the links pointing to his website. And then I had another one come to me after that and reviewed all their links. And since then, I've reviewed millions and millions of links of penalized websites, whether it was manually or with an algorithm. And it's really easy to see the patterns of sites that exist, you know, just because SEO gave us this way to make money. And so what I did was, every time I removed a penalty, my clients would say, well, what do I do now? Like, how do I rank in a way that's not going to get me penalized? And so I started collecting information. So whenever somebody published a blog post that my clients could learn from, then I made a note on it. Whenever Google said something official, I made notes on that. John Mueller's help hangouts for years, I have 6 Google Docs full of all of the notes from those help hangouts, just trying to get little hints of what we could do. And I started a newsletter to share. And that's what I think if anybody is watching this and like, I want to be known. I never set out to be known. I just wanted to help people. And so my newsletter, I would just share everything that I learned. And I still do that today, although there's more AI focus. And yeah, so I think that just learning, sharing, and I also, because of the nature of my consulting, I've always presented myself as, well, let's experiment, you know? And so my clients always know that there's like a little bit of risk in, you know, maybe it won't work. Maybe, you know, we'll try this theory and maybe it does work. And that, you know, not every SEO has that freedom to just go and do whatever. Right. So yeah, so I think I just had the right circumstances of learning, sharing, and having some success. And then it just kind of took off from there.
Okay, just a follow-up questions. Do you think disavow works?
Do I think which works?
Disavow.
Oh, disavow. Not now. No. For a while, yes. So if you remember, before 2016, from 2012 to 2016, Penguin was very penalizing. And it was the only way you could get out of Penguin is to thoroughly disavow. So now I only recommend disavowing if you have a manual action for unnatural links, or there are some sites where, like, you feel, what we used to say is, you're about to get a manual action because you can see, like, it's just the only reason you ranked was because you made thousands of links that like were manipulating Google. And it's been a long time since I've seen any evidence that disavowing has helped. And I actually can't remember the last time that I personally recommended disavowing, or I did open the tool up recently, but no, it was a fun thing to be an expert on for a while, but not today. I don't think it has much value.
I agree. I mean, I remember in 2018 we got hit by negative SEO attack where we had like almost 1 million links built and our rankings actually tanked.
Interesting.
And I was talking to Gary in Bali and I said, this is what happened. He says, I don't believe it. I said, it does happen. He said, okay, send me your Google Search Console access. I said, I'm not going to do that because you're going to dissect everything. I mean, the links which I built. So I said, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other topic, negative SEO. I have seen 1, maybe 2 cases where I was really convinced that links took a site down, and they were many years ago. I really think today Google uses PageRank in a totally different way, and links, they're really, like, if I can see the patterns, if I've looked at millions of links doing link audits and disavows, and I can like look at a link pattern and go, oh yeah, this was made for SEO, you know, oh, this one was an attempt at negative SEO. Google sees patterns. Like that's all that their machine learning systems do, is find the patterns and learn to get good at predicting what is real and what's not. So so I don't think disavow is a good practice today.
So the only practice which we find makes more sense is when you see the rankings going down, go put it all the backlinks in HRFS. See if any of the links have any of the domains have traffic less than 100. Just get those link removes. That's all we do. I mean, I don't think anything else matters. So we just do that.
I mean, even that, I think Google probably just ignores those, but it's hard to say. It's super hard to prove too, because you got to share all your data with everyone, or if you're creating a site to do a test on, well, it's not a real site to start with, so it's tricky, definitely.
Yes. Right. Now, so how has your perspective on SEO changed over the years, especially as Google algorithm have become more AI driven?
Yeah. So I mentioned I had an agency, and you met some of my team members. We had a fantastic time. I mean, what we did, we had 12 people that all we did was do site audits and site reviews. And for a period of time, we had incredible success. So today, everybody has heard of EEAT. Back in 2017, that's when I first started hiring team members, and it was just EAT then. There were things that you could do. You could add structured data. You could even beef up your author bios, actually hire people with expertise, all of these things to improve. And we had many sites that saw nice improvements. Then I want to say like between 2020, maybe 2021, we were seeing fewer and fewer returns. Now, some of that is because sites that were lacking EAT and just surviving based on SEO knowledge were knocked out of the SERPs. So what was left was like actual legitimate businesses.
Right.
But something else was happening. So when we do our site reviews, and even today when I do my site reviews, what I do is I look at who did Google's algorithms elevate at the time that the site I'm reviewing declined, right? That's what they tell you to do in their helpful content guidance. And it was super obvious that there was one specific pattern and it was something that you can't fix with SEO. And honestly, it was that the page that Google was elevating was in some way more helpful. Now, we can argue about that, like, because I can look at a page and go, well, I think this is helpful, and you might not think it's helpful, but Google's got data, right? That shows, we saw in the DOJ versus Google trial that nav boost, that, user engagement signals are used. Like Google can tell when people click back to the search results, and it's not a straightforward black and white algorithm. Like they have all these signals to use to determine whether people are actually finding these pages helpful. So businesses, we'd say, here's the problem. You have this content that was written, you have so much content that was written by people lacking expertise that is like essentially the same as everybody else's content on the internet. Why would Google want to rank you well when in the past we had tricks that could do that? We could get links, we could optimize certain things and make it look to Google like this was the best page. So what happened was then in 2022, Danny Sullivan from Google contacted me and he said, we have this new change coming out. Can we talk to you about it? And I'm like, of course. Like, it's not every day that Google wants to talk to you about an algorithm up there, right? And so that was, they didn't say the name at first. They said they were going to call it the SEO first update. Instead, it was Barry Schwartz convinced them not to do that. They named it the helpful content update. And what happened was, I don't think it actually targeted sites that used SEO, but what happened is as Google used AI and machine learning to predict which pages people were likely to find helpful, then things that used to work in the name of SEO became less and less helpful. And so that's why what we were seeing was these sites that thrived off of one of the most common things that we saw in sites that were impacted by HCU was they'd take all the people also asks, which is not a bad thing to do. Like you can get inspiration from those. And then they would like write whole blog posts based on the people also asks, which in the past would look good to machines because it's relevant. It's semantic relevant. It's similar in many ways, but not necessarily the thing that's the most helpful for people. So what you asked, what was the biggest change, or was the even downfall of SEO was AI. That AI is being used in many machine learning systems in Google to predict what users are likely to find helpful, which means that there are fewer and fewer SEO tricks and tactics that can be used, which is really, really hard. So I was saying to clients, you need to invest in original content. And these are all sites that had, plummeted, their revenue had dropped. And so it's very hard to sell people on, go out and spend millions of dollars on original content, change your whole business model, this and that. And so a lot of SEO driven sites declined, while, real businesses that have the money to invest in, I don't want to say real businesses, because those websites were real businesses to them, but real world businesses that had a presence outside of search had a much better chance.
And I think after HCU, the only thing which helped was that Google started introducing a factor called brand authority, which means that if you are being searched as a brand, which now, of course, people try to manipulate as well. But we see in very direct correlation, if there is a brand, there are lesser chances that you would get a better rankings, right?
It's interesting, because I don't know that Google's ever specifically said there's brand authority. I know Eric Schmidt, when he was CEO of Google, said brands are how Google sorts out the cesspool. That was many years ago, though. I really do think a lot of what we call brand authority is really just people recognizing your brand. And so you're going to have, of course, Amazon has a better chance of ranking over maybe a shop that has better products, but it's because people recognize the brand and then shop with who they recognize. And then, there was an age, I think we're just ending in this age where people could try to manipulate brand authority, and you could manipulate EEAT, that you could create these fake authors and, which has thankfully fewer and fewer returns now. But there's always going to be SEOs trying to manipulate.
I mean, think this way, SEO's job is to manipulate. I mean, honestly.
Maybe that's actually a really profound thing to say. I think that SEO is,
but end of the day, I'm trying to rank my client website, I'm trying to beat the system. So I can sugarcoat whatever. But that's what I'm doing. I mean, I can sugarcoat, okay, I'm trying to give helpful content, blah, blah. But tomorrow another update comes and I'm back to trying to fix how I can quickly get the client.
Yeah, I mean, you're understanding how the algorithms work and then reacting to it, right? And I think manipulation, because the word manipulation is in Google spam guidelines, right? Like if you're manipulating, you're going against the guidelines, which you know what, if it works for your client, that's cool, but there's always risk there. But I think you can still do SEO without manipulating. You can optimize user experience, you can optimize page speed, you can create truly content that's so original and unique that, but it's really hard to do, because I actually feel like Google has used us as content creators and SEOs. Because for years we had this opportunity that we could, take the world's information, package it into blog posts, and then monetize it either with affiliate links or with ads or whatever. And now Google's got all the world's information, and all it really needs is the new, interesting, original stuff. That's why it's getting harder and harder to rank in ways that aren't manipulation.
Right. All right. So enough we talk about the rank manipulations. We're going to move to another section, which is, of course, a hot topic these days, is the AI. So the rise of AI agents and changing web, that's what this segment is. Now, AI agents are being called the next big revolution in how we interact with the web. For those new to the concept, how would you define an AI agent and what makes them fundamentally different from the traditional automation tool?
So an AI agent is AI that can take action. It doesn't have to be necessarily autonomous. You can tell it what action to take, but it can take action on your behalf. And it can take action even when you're not present there. And so one of the examples of an AI agent that many of us have used is the deep research that comes in Gemini and in ChatGPT and in Grok as well. Mm-hmm. And that is not just doing search, it's actually browsing the web. So when you research a topic, it will browse the web, it'll find a link and go, oh, that actually, I need to find more about that. And it'll click that link and it will act almost like an assistant on your behalf. So have you used OpenAI's Operator yet?
Yes, I think I had used Operator, right?
It's pretty wild, right? So
Yes.
it's an agent that uses, so basically you give it a command and it uses a browser somewhere in California that will take actions on my behalf. So I can ask it, do a Google search for my client's keywords, tell me what SERP features are there and whether they rank in those SERP features, and then make a report for me. There's my assistant goes off, does this work, saves me a ton of time. I'm going to IO very soon, and I asked Operator to find me flights, and then I did it myself, and I came up with the same flight that Operator found me. And then I asked it for hotels, same thing. And then it said, "Do you want me to book the hotel for you?" Which I was a little bit nervous about doing, so I didn't let it do it. But very soon that will be commonplace. That a lot of the things, whether it's shopping, whether it's researching for information, instead of us using search, we're going to send our agent, and our agent might be Gemini, it might be ChatGPT, it might be like some personal agent that we've coded ourselves on open source software. And that agent will go out and gather what we need and then bring it back to us, basically. So OpenAI Operator is so you can only use it if you're one of the enthusiastic people that pay the $200 a month for OpenAI's plans. But soon Google is coming out with their own version, which I haven't heard many people talk about. So Sundar Pichai mentioned, CEO of Google, mentioned Project Mariner is what it's called. And the difference is, instead of using an external browser somewhere in another city, it actually uses your browser and will do things on your behalf. And in a talk recently, Sundar Pichai said that within 2 to 3 years, agents like Project Mariner will be deeply embedded into our workflows. That's kind of hard to grasp, right? That like, that I'm going to just have this assistant that can go off and do things for me. So that's one thing, the browser agent. But then agents will start to do things for your business. So Google announced Agent Space, which is for large enterprises that it starts off with, like, you have all your documents and your data, and maybe you have an agent that is your onboarding agent, and you hire a new employee, and the onboarding agent coordinates talking with the HR agent and the payroll agent, and all of those. They might have humans somewhere involved, but a lot of the work, like all the paperwork and the stuff that, like, you really don't need a human to do paperwork, is going to be done by the agents. So that's Agent Space. And then they also announced Customer Engagement Suite, which I don't know if you saw the video of the guy from Google who was buying stuff at a garden center. And then this chatbot comes up, and it's like a real lifelike sounding voice. And the chatbot's like, "Oh, I think you have the wrong soil in your cart. Can you show me what flowers you're planting?" And they switch to video, and the guy shows his petunia, and the chatbot's like, "Oh, no, you need a different soil for that." And like, so it's changing how we're going to interact with e-commerce websites. But even more exciting beyond that, seeing this is like too much to comprehend almost, is the business agents. So Google released just recently Agent Development Kit, where anybody can build these agents that accomplish tasks. And they can use tools, so they can connect with any API, maybe Search Console or whatever. And then they can do stuff on their behalf. So I could have multiple agents. Like, let's say I have a content optimizing agent, and I have a traffic drop assessment agent, and it's basically, just prompts that I've put in and tools that I've coded, and it connects with different APIs and whatever. Then let's say you have a difficult traffic drop you're assessing. Right now, you could reach out to me, and we could consult and one-on-one. But if I have an agent, I could consult with thousands of people, in a day, using all my strategy and my advice. And so soon, businesses, Google says in their recent blog post that every business will have multiple agents. And they developed something called the agent-to-agent framework, which I think is how the web is going to completely change. That much of what is done today will not need humans. That it'll be my agent talking to your agent,
Right.
and your agent has access to all these, like you have your whole list of agents that like you use in your workflow. And my agent might be like, well, you know what, that would actually be helpful for Marie. So I'm gonna connect with that agent, and there will be a marketplace where we can charge for those agents. So I'll stop there because there's a lot of stuff. But the entirety of the web is soon about to change.
So now, of course, so how do you see AI agents changing the way user interacts with website, and will the web be designed more for agents than for humans in the coming years?
Yeah, it's interesting because Google tells us that we're supposed to create content for people first, right? People first
Right.
is what the helpful content updates were all about. And yet I really think that we're moving to a world where most interaction on the web is done with agents. And so yeah, there's this controversy right now over, is optimizing for language models any different than SEO? And we haven't really decided on what we're going to call that. And I think the reason why we haven't decided is because we haven't actually seen what this new, we're like people in the time when electricity first started being used. We can see like, wow, it can make lights light up, when
Right.
like we could never foresee what you and I are doing right now, right? So how do we plan for this world that like we can't comprehend just yet? But I do think that what I mean, as long as there are businesses that need to be found, there's a need for people like us who advise on how to do that. And I think a lot of what we do today, optimizing for people, for design, things like that, will switch to being optimal for agents. And so you want to make it so that your data that is important to people is easy to find. This agent to agent protocol, every agent has a card. It's just like a little name tag basically, and it's in JSON that says, here's what I do, and what I can accomplish. And so I think optimizing your agent is going to be something that's important. And I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of businesses, but also it'll open up great opportunities for those who understand what's going on. Because what I predict is going to happen is, right now, of all the people that are using AI, like pretty much everybody I know has used AI in some sense,
Right.
right? And like Google, Apple, OpenAI, all these companies are putting billions of dollars into AI. Yet I don't know too many people that are actually making real money, from this new technology. So like there's a disconnect there. And I think it's because these companies know what's coming. So I think there's going to be a tipping point where people start to make real money off of AI agents. And when that happens, you're going to see that those businesses do extremely well. And then it'll be like the businesses who don't want to accept AI, who don't want to have an AI agent, will be kind of like if we tried to operate without a phone today, like
Right.
you would be behind. So I think we're going to see a tipping point where all of a sudden there's huge money to be made. And
Yeah.
but it's so vague right now because like we only know a little piece of what the future holds.
Yeah. Because just a day back, OpenAI introduced shopping in their chat, so that's something.
Yes.
And then, of course, the agent is bound to follow that, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was checking that out, and the shopping results in OpenAI. So we know OpenAI uses Bing's index, but the
Right.
shopping results were not ranked in the same order for me, at least for the things that I searched. So it's going to become very personalized. And ChatGPT has memory, and they recently announced that now there's memory across all your chats. And
Yeah.
then Gemini as well. Well, now it's just one version of Gemini that can access your search history if you give it permission. But eventually, that's what our agents are going to be. Is like, so if I'm out in my garden and I'm trying to figure out what fertilizer I need, my AI agent knows what plants I've planted. We've had all these conversations on how to plant them, and so when I'm like, okay, I need to buy something to put in this bed here, and also we haven't talked about wearables. Like all the AI is going to be in glasses, So
Yeah.
I'll be out in my garden, just looking at the garden going, what do I need? And, my AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, is going to be like, well, the leaves look a little yellow, and I'll put all the things together. It probably needs fertilizer. Here's the products I recommend that are closest to you. Do you want me to buy one? And then, I haven't touched a computer, but I can say to my agent, yeah, sure, get me, and it's like, oh, Walmart has it and they deliver. And then that afternoon I have fertilizer in my hand. So
Right.
that's a different web, right? That we're optimizing for what, for machines.
Right. So of course, then, I mean, websites will become less relevant if AI agent has to create content for users, or is there another way you see it?
I think a lot of websites will be less relevant. I mean, I'm trying to think of what, like, I still surf the web today, but more and more I get information from AI. Like, even so in my newsletter, if I'm trying to write news stories about what's happening in AI, I have this whole routine. I start off in Google News, and then I go to social media, and then I end up on websites. But lately, what's helping me is both ChatGPT and Grok. That I will say, what's interesting in AI, and it gives me the whole story right there. Now, I still go to the website because I need to reference it in my newsletter, but I don't think we're far from the day where the vast majority of what we currently get off of a screen on a website, we will not want from there. Now, if you're a store, there will be people that still want to browse, like,
Right.
but maybe that's done through our agent as well. Like, if I'm wanting to plant a certain type of, I have this arch that I want to plant seeds on, right? And so, yeah, I might want to go to a store and browse what you have. But even better would be if my agent can say, well, there's 5 stores near you, and here's what all of them have, and I can browse through my agent, and I didn't have to go to their website. So yeah, I think a lot of what we know about websites is going to change.
Now, could this lead to a new SEO matrix, for example, optimizing for an agent evaluation versus a human search behavior?
I 100% believe so. Yes. Yeah. And again, I think it's too hard to predict. It's not, there's all this talk about, are we optimizing for ChatGPT? I had somebody contact me today to say, like, how can you make me rank better in ChatGPT? It's so hard because it's essentially gathering all of the signals that it has available to it and then determining for each individual user what's best. And we won't be optimizing for keywords like, nobody's gonna, well, maybe people type something like best running shoes into ChatGPT, but really what's going to happen is I'm going to have a conversation saying, like, I'm
Right.
going to start running, and help me figure this out, and oh, by the way, what shoes do I get?
Right.
And so, like, keywords are we're going to have a real problem in trying to track
Yeah.
what's
And
important
try
to
to
our
track and optimize, because we don't know what people are searching and I can't
yeah.
track it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think attribution is going to be a nightmare. I mean, it already is, but
It already is. That's what we say. It already is. My clients
yeah,
keep saying, how can I be in here? And I says, so it's difficult because we have to tell them that it's not searching. It has its database. So it's not a real life
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's not a search engine. It's just taking a data from Bing or whatever. It is in their database. So I can't switch it on overnight. It's not going to happen like that.
Yeah. What I like to do is look at, like, who is getting recommended for the, like, I'll have a conversation about my client's product and then say, can you recommend some clients? And then you can ask the LLM, like, why did you recommend them over this site? But the thing is that it's not always going to be 100% right. So, it might recommend, it might just make something up, right? But you can get ideas. And a lot of the time what it's recommending are brands, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
And that's tough, like so how do you get seen amongst the brands? Like, you basically have to build a reputation as the go-to place for this type of product or information, which is brand building, essentially. Yeah.
Because then there is not going to be 10 results. It's just going to be one result. So that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And lately, I also seen that when you are chatting with ChatGPT, it doesn't end the conversation. It always keeps it open. Okay, How about this? So I've seen it in the last 1 month that it's not ending the conversation. It keeps on suggesting one or the other thing. I mean, when you try with any other chat, any other LLM, they just end what you ask, they just end it. But here in Chat GPT, the difference is it keeps on asking, okay, I wrote this. Do you want me to create social media for you? Do you want me to do that? And it actually prompts, okay, it's just going to take me, it's just going to take a minute. It's like that. It's acting you
Yeah.
with them. Get used
Well,
to
and
it.
then that brings up a good point because I don't know if you've played with Google's new AI mode much, but it's an experiment in search labs. So when AI overviews first came out, they started as an experiment in labs, and now there's AI mode, and it's different than AI overviews. It's a whole new search engine essentially. So if I search for best running shoes, right now in search, Google's going to understand the keywords in the query, the concepts that are important, and then find me websites that are likely to be relevant. In AI mode, what happens is they use something called a query fan out technique, and they figure out what is your next question going to be, and some of that is based on your personal history. So if I ask best running shoes, it's going to know the city that I live in. It's going to know some of my search history, perhaps even eventually be personalized to like understanding what kind of colors I like, like everything about me, right? And so AI mode produces a gigantic AI overview type answer and links to websites, but it's completely different than what we
Yeah.
see in traditional search. And you have the ability to ask follow-up questions. So I think that AI mode and Gemini will essentially merge. And I think that for those who use Google Assistant, if you have Android devices or in your car or on your television, that this is going to be the new search, is kind of like starting off as AI, and then when needed, we'll show you a website, which is going to be a big change.
Yeah. And I don't know really how Google is going to monetize and how SEO is going to fit in the picture. So that's still a little hazy for me.
I'm not worried about Google monetizing that. Sergey Brin had a thing a little while back. He was at a hackathon for Gemini, and I don't know his exact words, so I don't want to misquote him, but he said, for 25 years, we've had this great deal where we've given people search for free, paid by advertising. And it sort of implied to me, I don't think advertising is going to end. Like there's obviously it's Google's biggest revenue generator. But he said, if the product is good enough, and he was talking about Gemini at the time, if the product is good enough, then the business model will sort itself out. Now, if we go back to this idea of agents, if every business has multiple agents, those multiple agents need to run on AI. And so I need to be buying compute from Google. I need to be paying for the AI that is powering all of my AI agents. And we already saw, I don't know the exact numbers, but in Google's last earnings call, the revenue from cloud is going up and up and up every earnings call. And so I do think, first, we're going to see that AI becomes a bigger source of revenue than advertising. And second, that advertising completely changes. That AI will make it so that instead of me seeing a banner ad for buy these running shoes, it's going to be like, hey, do you want to talk to our running shoe agent who, can walk you through the whole process, or our shoe fitting agent that, you just put your foot up and it tells you what's best. Like we're in for a whole new world of interactivity within advertising. So a lot is going to change.
Right. Now let's come back to what today we have is, and specifically Google AI overviews and changing search behaviors. This segment we're gonna talk more about that. Now, you have analyzed Google AI overviews extensively, and Google's new AI mode is already changing the look and feel of search results with longer, more citations heavy answers and a focus on local intent. Now, what are the most important changes for SEO and marketers to understand here?
So AI overviews right now, the vast majority that I've seen have been informational. And we see all these studies that say, oh, when AI overviews are there, your clicks are going to reduce. There are other studies, though, that show that if you're linked within the AI overview, for a lot of queries, your clicks actually improve. But I've heard one thing consistently with the clients that I've analyzed AI overviews for, and that's that it's not really affecting their bottom line. And so a lot of the time, the AI overview answers the questions that have common knowledge in the world. And yes, they might draw it from your website, just like a featured snippet would draw an answer. It's really just a long featured snippet. But so far, in the clients that I have, AI overviews have not really made a big difference. Like it's almost like a vanity thing that I want to be the site that's linked to in there. And we've done some tests. I managed to get some sites in AI overviews, and then Google changed the whole. It's constantly changing how they're doing it, and then we dropped out again. And so right now for AI overviews, I'd just be looking at where do we appear. There's a bunch of tools that can tell you that. And do we appear for any queries that really matter to our revenue? That will change though, because Google has said that they're going to be introducing commercial queries, and I think they need to get it right. Like the biggest news about AI overviews is the mistakes that they make. And this is a part of how AI works. It works by reinforcement learning, which means you need to do well to be like, they're not, it's not like we always tell them, oh, great answer, Google, like, but we tell them with our clicks. You know, if an AI overview is good and then we interact with the websites that it gives us, like that's a sign that it did well. If it's bad, like somebody's going to do another search, or and a lot of these ones that are bad are people just putting in nonsense queries that like nobody would have searched for anyways. And that teaches the AI overviews to become better. So as they get better, and as Google's language models get better, one day we'll look back at, I think we'll look back at like laughingly at how bad they were. So when they get good, Google's going to start to be putting in more commercial queries. I've seen a couple of them where it was a product review. So, you know, if you were like comparing bicycles, the AI overview actually showed like 5 different bicycles and links where you can buy them as well. And so that's when we need to be monitoring what's happening. And the tough thing is like they're so hard to monitor for multiple reasons. Like number one, they change repeatedly. Google changes how the tools can access them. Like they change the markup of the, you know, the way they're using JavaScript or whatever. And then also the way that people search is changing. Like I find myself, if I'm using AI mode, I'm doing much longer queries than I would, you know, with very specific, like I want to, right now, if I searched on Google for like, I want a bike that's this color, this many speed, you know, it's a mountain bike, it's good on whatever, like you're not going to get a good search result. But in AI mode, you can. So, so that's going to be really hard for us to monitor. I don't really know the answer to how we track what's going on in there. So, what I'm advising my clients and the people who learn from me and with me in the search bar, my community, is just monitor what's happening. Take a bunch of screenshots. Monitor what's changed, and that's kind of the best we can do right now, so that when it does start impacting our bottom line, then we have a little bit more insight than others who haven't been monitoring.
Now, how do you see AI mode impacting traditional blue link SEO strategies? Should agencies rethink how they approach content and visibility?
So AI mode tries to find content that meets the entire search journey. And one of the things that I've seen, again, it keeps changing though. I was going to do a video on this one site that I've been monitoring and rank nowhere in search, and then they were ranking number 1 in AI mode for a term that brings them a lot of money. And then the next day when I went to shoot the video, it had changed again, so they weren't there. But that post that made them a lot of money, watch it's a travel query, and it takes you through like everything you'd want to know, not just here's the top 10 places to visit in this city. Like those posts don't do well anymore because there's, you know, many people writing about the top 10 places. But what I want to know is like, what do most people do? Like, where do they go? And what are the super interesting places? And what's the weather going to be like? And like a bunch of things. So if you're trying to optimize for AI mode, first monitor what is showing up, and start to look at what searcher needs they meet. there's a guy from Bing named Frederick Debut, who a couple of years ago, he did an interview at a conference, and there's a very short clip on YouTube where he said SEOs are going to need to change from keyword research to intent research. And that's the key, really, is understanding what your audience wants and then meeting their need. Because a lot of the way we do SEO today is looking at what currently ranks and trying to be a little bit better. and Google doesn't need more of what currently ranks. So one of the things is finding the gaps. There's a great patent from Google on information gain. And I really think if you look at the search results, whether it's in AI mode, AI overviews, whatever, it's interesting to see how often the results will meet a slightly different need. Like if it's a recipe, like, oh, this one is vegan and this one is, cheap ingredients and this one's quick to make. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because like if I go to the library and I want 10 books on like 10 of the same recipe, I want a variety of things that's going to help me. So that's what I would say is like really focus on looking at user intent, not just transactional versus informational, but like deep, what does your customer want to know, and then meeting that need.
All right. Now, given your expertise in EEAT, how do you think Google AI-driven results will evaluate and surface trustworthy content?
Yeah, so let me tell you a funny story. I was at Google I/O last year, and I didn't know anybody there. That's because it's their developer conference, and I'm like, I play with code, but I'm not a developer. I'm like, why did you invite me here? And I sat down for lunch, and this guy sits next to me, and I thought he looks kind of familiar. Well, it's Jeff Dean, the head of AI at Google, the guy who wrote like hundreds of papers on ranking, on like of all the people to talk to. It was just fascinating. And so we had this big long talk about multiple things, about the brain and about AI. And then at the end of the conference, I saw him again. And I asked him this question. I thought it was kind of unfair to ask, but I was like, what do I do with my life? Because I spent all these years studying EAT, now EEAT. And I don't think my life's purpose, forgive me, like if this belittles anyone, but I don't think my life's purpose is to just make one website rank higher than another website. Like I think for most SEOs, we're training for something. We're understanding something that very few in the world understand. And the reason is, this is where we're going to get a little bit kind of crazy sounding here, is that right now we're in this transition where like, ooh, agents are going to start doing things for us. You've probably heard of Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain implants, right? Which sounds kind of crazy. Like, would you go out and get a brain implant? I mean, some people I ask are like, yeah, I would totally do that. But like most of us are not going to get brain surgery to put AI in our brains. Although just last week, somebody developed a brain computer interface that just goes under the skin on your scalp. You don't need brain surgery and it can interpret your thoughts. Where I'm going with this is that we are moving towards the day where AI is integrated with our thoughts. And it is so important for us to be able to trust what comes in and goes out, like because I was thinking the other day about ChatGPT's memory. It's going to get mixed in with my memory. Like the other day I asked ChatGPT, what was that recipe you gave me for mussels? And I can't remember what the last ingredient was. And then ChatGPT on my screen said, oh yeah, don't forget the coconut milk or whatever it was. Soon, like for people who choose to have some type of an implant, even if it's a wearable, even if it's just glasses, it will just become part of our normal thinking pattern that we're like, oh, what was that last ingredient? Click, let me check my AI memory. And we sort of merge together where like AI is a part of what I do. So if that happens, which I can't see why it wouldn't, it's the progression of where we're going. It's so important that what is given to us in AI is trustworthy, is good. So Google has been developing this concept of EAT since before the days of Panda that came out in 2011. And you asked like, how will they know with AI? I think that EAT is many, many signals that are being used. And they use machine learning to continually refine upon how they do that. So
Right.
I have this theory. I don't know if this is true. This might be like another crazy tinfoil hat theory, but for a while, AI generated content was ranking like really well, and you could spam out thousands of AI generated posts on, like, you take a topic, have AI make a topical map for you, produce a million posts, and you're printing money basically, right? And it's much harder to do now. But I actually believe that Google allowed us, not us, I didn't do it, allowed SEOs to do that so that they could train and learn, because they needed, like, you don't need like just 10 examples. You need millions of examples of what's good and what's legitimate, honest, trustworthy, and what's just, made to make money on the internet. And so anyways, I like to ask, how is Google going to determine what's trustworthy? Really, it's machine learning. It's seeing examples of good and bad. The quality raters do that in their rating. Now they've been, did you see the thing where John Mueller had said, there was a slide that said, AI quality raters are now going to be asked whether content is completely AI generated. But the part that didn't get highlighted in that quote from the rater guidelines is not, it doesn't matter that it's AI generated. It's AI generated with little to no effort, and not helpful to people. And so the quality raters are there to sort of assess whether Google's algorithms are producing things that are trustworthy. So I don't think I completely answered that, because like I don't think, if we knew the secret sauce to how Google determines that, then that would be dangerous. But they're continually improving on that, and the reason I believe is because like one day AI, like, it's kind of crazy to think that AI will mesh with our personhood, but it already is happening. Like, imagine living your life without your phone. It's a part of you essentially, right? So it soon will be.
Yeah, I mean, we all are using AI so much. I know that, right? You talked about quality data guidelines. Now, what were the biggest surprises for you in the January 25 quality data guidelines update, especially around AI generated content?
Yeah. So they mentioned a lot more about AI. They kind of gave it a definition of what AI generated content was. And then they mentioned in several places AI generated content. However, the whole point, it was always about the effort put into it, and the intention behind it, basically. And so Google's got a big long blog post on what's acceptable for using AI. And they basically say it doesn't matter who created it, as long as it's helpful. So whenever I create content, every piece of content I create to some extent is AI has helped me create it, but I rarely just say, go write me an article on this. Like it's just going to regurgitate what's already known. But I might say, like, take this research article and pull out what's important and then put it into layman's terms so I can put it in my article, that type of thing. So the rater guidelines, yes, the raters are being asked to look at whether they think something was generated by AI, but really it's about whether it's low quality. The other thing that was surprising to me in the rater guidelines was there was new stuff added about filler content. And you see that in recipe sites. And one of the examples I gave was a recipe site that had like loads of stuff before you actually get down to the thing you came for. I don't think that's related to AI, but very important. I think whenever something's added to the rater guidelines, usually within a couple of updates, we see changes in the core systems that reflect what the raters were being asked to look at. So it's worth paying attention to.
Yeah, that's a good point, because otherwise, why are they being asked to look into?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A couple of updates ago in the rater guidelines, they updated guidance on forums. And then when we saw, so I think that change was made in November last year. And then the most recent core update in March, many forum sites were impacted. And so it makes sense that, and I've looked at quite a few, and it's really interesting to see, like, people are like, oh, Google loves Reddit and therefore Reddit's going to win for everything. But when you look at the actual posts for Reddit that got boosted above another forum, and you look at like how well it actually meets the need that people wanted, the Reddit post is usually better. So I think Google's getting better at figuring out which content is the one that people would want to land on to get their question answered.
In fact, so is the case that now a lot of people append their queries with word Reddit just to get the right type of results. So if I'm in a hurry, I would rather put Reddit and read that thread rather than going and getting all through artificial content.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think a lot of us have written content assuming that we have these readers, these magical readers that read every word that we write, and that was good for for SEO for many years, because search engines read every word on the page and figure out what to prioritize, figure out what the page is about. But if you think of like how we search on the web, we have very short attention spans, and if we're trying to find something, if I'm standing in front of my fridge and I'm like, what do I make with chicken today? And I look at a few websites and I just quickly see, like, is my answer on this page? No, I'll go to another website. Actually, for recipes though, I use AI for almost all my recipes now, which it's sad to say, because I have a lot of friends who create recipe websites, but Gemini is really good at making recipes.
Wow. I'll try myself. I still am going to the websites and using the recipes.
Yeah, you should try it. It's like I think I've probably made 300 things with, like, I go between Gemini, ChatGPT, and Grok. Grok makes pretty good, well, they all make good recipes. And I had one bread recipe from Gemini that didn't work out, but like pretty much everything else was amazing. And then you can say, oh, I want this, but with healthier ingredients, or with, my favorite thing is to say, make it as tasty as possible. And then it goes back and it's like, oh, you could add Dijon mustard and you could add this and that. And like, it's really a neat experience if you can trust that you're going to get a good result from it.
That's the only thing my kid's gonna eat, so I don't know how it's gonna end up, so I just try to play safe.
Yeah, no, understandable. Yeah, but no, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who does that, but I have had great success with AI generated recipes.
All right, now given the evolving landscape, do you think authority will matter more than traditional backlink profiles in ranking decisions?
I think that Google's use of backlinks has changed dramatically over the years. I think with every single core update, backlinks become less and less important. It's not that they mean nothing, but Google gets better at figuring out, why do we get links? Links are a vote for our content. Right. And for a while, you could create all these microsites. You could create your own blog network and then link to your content, and it would fool Google into thinking, oh, lots of people think this content is about this keyword anchor that keeps getting used. I think we're beyond those days. I think that links work for a couple of reasons. They're important to get your content discovered. And this is why I've had these arguments and this great passion over the years on the importance of links, because I have friends that wear white hats and black hats. And the black hats are like, you're a fool if you think that links don't matter. Links are like everything. And the white hats, who are like legitimately are ranking websites, are like, we haven't had success with link building in years. Here's the difference. If you're a black hat, you're probably more likely to be working on a website that only exists for the purpose of search. And that means that it's harder to get it found. And so if I'm a white hat that's working on a business that gets mentioned, in the press or like social media or whatever, Google can see like there's evidence of people talking about it. But for a black hat website, links are needed in order to get attention from Google, in order to get Google to crawl the content. So that's one thing. Then links are also a component of EEAT. So in 2017, I asked Gary Eash how EAT was measured, and he said it's primarily based on links and mentions. And he said, for example, if the Washington Post mentions you, it's a good thing. So I think that that's less about the link and more about the connections in the knowledge graph. So if is one of the reasons why I do podcasts, that this will be evidence on the web that you found me worthy to talk about these subjects, right? And maybe you'll link to my website, maybe you won't, but regardless, it's okay. Either way is good. Regardless, so I did an interview last week with 97th floor, Paxton Gray, and he mentioned in the title of his podcast, he said, Marie Haynes, SEO and AI expert, and didn't link with those words, but it was the podcast. I looked, I couldn't believe my rankings. When I checked my rankings last week, I was ranking in the AI overview and number 6 organically for Google SEO expert, which like has not been something I've not been building that. I'm not optimized. Like, I mean, I'm a little bit optimized for it. But what I'm trying to say is the mentions on the web being known as the quality rater guidelines mention repeatedly being known for your topics. It's reputation that matters more than links. So when you said authority, I think if authority is aligned with reputation, then that is true. So instead of link building, I like to see people switch to reputation building, is like getting you known for the topics that you talk about.
It just because you become an entity, and then Google sees that.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
Functions for that entity, right? That's how it is.
If I get mentioned in search engine land, or I write something for Search Engine Journal or something like that, like that's connecting the entities, my name as an entity with the topic of SEO or AI or whatever, right? And so it's the knowledge graph is really like just connections between words and things, and so that should be our goal. But it aligns very much with links, because the link graph is very similar, and I think that here's an interesting fact. Penguin was 2012. A month later, less than a month later, was when the knowledge graph came out. And shortly after that, in 2013, was when Google's Word to Vec paper came out, which was the start of using language, semantics of language, to understand queries and content. And so since that time period, which coincidentally has been like the time that I've been in SEO, so like I've been able to see this grow. Google has taken their initial page algorithm, which was based on the graph of links on the web, and changed it, morphed it into an understanding of everything on the web, not just the links. So PageRank used to be the #1 signal, and now like there's the March core update last year, Google said we brought in new signals to the algorithm, and so now it's kind of like everything that's available. Okay.
So right now, so I know you said for your clients as well as your community that it's important that they continue to follow how AI and take screenshots. Now, my question is, what are some early mistakes you see you are seeing businesses make as they try to adopt AI powered SERP?
I think one of the things, it's so hard because anybody who's interested in AI can see that it's changing the world, but there's this frustration because we don't know what to do. Like even me, I use AI all day long, and I feel like I'm going in a million different directions, when the knowledge that I have I should be able to laser focus on something. So the #1 skill that I think businesses can have right now is the ability to learn, is just to practice every day with using language models. And instead of focusing on where they mess up or where they hallucinate something, focus on like, what can you actually accomplish? Like, for example, I wanted to optimize an image for my website, and I gave it to ChatGPT, and I was like, can you make this 800 pixels wide and optimized for the web? And it was like, no, you need to use a tool for that. And then I said, no, you can do it. I believe in you. And it whipped up some Python, and now I have a GPT that I just pop in an image and it optimizes for me. So it's like we're learning to speak a new language, so try to get language models to do stuff for you. I think every business should be looking at agents, but also it's too early to be like building them unless you're building them for the experience of like learning how to do it. I think we're going to see like great changes. It's kind of like when we first heard of a website. Like if you built a website, I remember I did the about.com hello world tutorial, and like anything you build built as a website back in your early days, like you
Right.
wouldn't be using today, right? As a website.
Right.
Yeah. So like a lot of it is just learning. And then I think the biggest mistake that people use with AI, that businesses use with AI today, is trying to get it to do what you think, like what it will do in the future. And so using it to completely write content, using it as a shortcut for something where you're like, your gut tells you really like it would be better if a human did this, but you're trying to use AI to like get ahead. I've seen countless cases of people publishing large amounts of AI generated content that initially takes off and then crashes. So I would say today's the age where we are learning, and there will be benefit for those who do all that learning. But we're not quite at the point where AI can just, we can plug it in and it makes us millions of dollars.
Right. Now, with so much change in technology, how do you keep yourself in continuously learning and staying ahead of the curve?
So I made it my full-time job. I mean, I do have clients. I say full-time job. I probably have 2 full-time jobs. I have clients, but then I spend every day learning and reading the top stories in AI. And what I do, so remember I told you my newsletter was to help tell people what Google was doing.
Right.
That's what I do now today. Is it's a mixture of Google News and then also AI news. And then also just practicing with the language models. I switch back and forth between Gemini and ChatGPT. I'll use Grok because I do think that Grok X has the largest cluster of supercomputers, and Grok 3.5 is coming out soon. Like Grok is very good considering that it was a latecomer to the game, and I think we need to keep an eye on it. But the new O3 from ChatGPT, which they just increased the usage limits, even if you're on a free account or a $20 account, you can use more O3, is mind-blowing. It will use tools within ChatGPT. It will do deep research when it thinks it needs to do it. Like it will create images. It understands images better. So right now that's my favorite one. But I would say just like do all you can, just learn, get the max out of using the language models. And then to stay ahead, I mean, you can read my newsletter. That would be one thing. Yes, thank you. And then like don't be afraid to share stuff. If you're somebody who like lurks on social media, there's so much opportunity right now for people who are willing to put themselves out there. Like I've added a few new names to my newsletter from mostly a few women on LinkedIn. I can't remember their names now, but are posting like, I did this thing with O3 and it didn't work perfectly, but here's what I got, and so that's how I became, like, why I'm on the podcast. That's how I became known, was I was willing to try things and share things.
Yes,
One of the problems
absolutely.
that we have in our social media right now, like when I first started on Twitter, I had a group of like maybe 30 friends that we were just talking back and forth with, like, oh, I tried this optimizing thing and now I'm on page 1. And like today, when you share something, it's like this committee of pitchforks comes out with people just want to knock you down. And I think half those people are bots that are just like trying to keep you in a bad mood or something. But I would say don't be afraid to share stuff. And then that's how you get known, because if every business is going to have multiple agents, and right now the number of people who thoroughly understand SEO and what we know so far about agents is tiny. So there's so much opportunity that's out there.
Right. Now, for agency owners listening today, what are the top 3 actions they should take right now to prepare for the AI-driven future?
Sure. So like I said, learn to use language models. Not even so much with like prompting tutorials, just play around with what you can do. I would actually say read some AI research. It's really hard to get through some of these papers, but you can use AI to help you. All of the tools are really good at, you can say like dumb it down or put it in layman's terms, or you can, the new Gemini, you have to pay for Gemini Advanced for this, but you can put in a research paper and say, make a game to teach me about this paper. And it opens up Canvas, like spits out a bunch of code, and you get like a game that has like can teach you the concepts in a paper. How wild is that, right? So number two would be like to read either papers, be wary of the media, because the media, AI is a threat to the media for obvious reasons. And so everything in the media, not everything, but so much of the media skews negative against AI. So don't believe all the negativity. Don't get fixed on the drama of who's fired and whatever. Like, your goal is to learn what the new models are. And then the third thing I would say is to experiment with building things. So I told you I wasn't a coder, and Google invited me to their developer conference. Well, now I think I kind of am a coder. Like, it would be embarrassing if nobody would ever hire me for my code. But I don't know if you've heard of this term, vibe coding. It was coined by Andre Karpathy, who was he was at Google and one of the founders of OpenAI eventually. And that's where you use language models to help you code stuff. So I started off, I find ChatGPT works best. A lot of people like Claude for it. And I just said, like, I don't know the first thing about, I don't even know where to put my code. And ChatGPT taught me about VS Code. And like, you just try to create something. If you're an SEO, it's really easy to connect with the Search Console API. And so, like, try to just get your keywords from the Search Console API and talk in natural language, and ChatGPT will give you the code, and then you put it into VS Code. And then if there's an error, you give it back to ChatGPT. And at some point you think, like, I'm not even needed here because I'm the person who pastes stuff back and forth. But if you can learn to build stuff, then that's going to be a skill that's very, very needed in the future.
All right. Now, with this, we come to the last section of our show, which is a rapid fire question. So,
All right.
the bunch of questions, you answer what comes first in your mind. So let's go. So, your favorite AI tool you use daily? One.
I'm going to say ChatGPT. It'll change from week to week, but yes, ChatGPT.
Okay. Most underrated SEO tactic today?
Understanding user intent and making that easy to find and semantically easy for machines to find.
Okay. One technology you think will completely disappear in the next 5 years?
Technology. Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think that, I don't know if it's a technology. I mean, I think many news websites will disappear. I don't know that I can answer that.
All right. Personal mantra you live by?
Oh, my husband gave me this one that I did not like it at first, but I know it'll help somebody because I went through a lot of bad stuff over the last few years. And it's not happening to you, but for you. Pretty much everything we go through in our life, even if it seems like it's just crap, is building you for something. It's teaching you something.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, book or podcast recommendations for agency leaders?
Say that again, sorry?
Books or podcast recommendations for agency leaders?
Oh, okay. Podcasts. So what I do for podcasts is I go to the front page of YouTube and just put in AI. And I'm mostly listening for lectures from actual AI leaders. So what Demis Hassabis is saying, the founder of DeepMind. DeepMind itself has a podcast. I can't remember the name of it, but I would watch every episode of that. Books, Eric Schmidt has a new book out right now on, it's called Genesis. And then also Mustafa Suleyman, who was one of the co-founders of DeepMind, now leads AI at Microsoft, has a book called The Coming Wave. I think everybody should read that. It is about how AI is going to be changing our world in dramatic ways. And it's not all, like, it's a good mixture of, there can be some bad things, but also some very incredible things as well. I'd recommend that.
All right. All right. And Mary, thank you so much for sharing your insights and for more than an hour now. And where can our listeners follow your work or get in touch with you?
For sure. So I would love for everybody to join in our community. It's at community.mariehaynes.com. It's totally free, where I post in SEO and AI news every day. And then there is a paid area, which we have some fantastic discussions, people that are trying to build actual stuff with AI and sharing about what we're doing. And then my newsletter is mariehaynes.com/newsletter. And it's about twice a month, pretty much everything that you need to know in terms of what's happening with AI and search is in there.
Right. I still remember when there would be a new updates coming, all I will do is wait for your newsletter. So I will do that information and say, okay, this is what we researched.
It's so wild too, because Google, for many years, every time there was a core update, it was when I was traveling. It was almost, you could predict, oh, I'm going away in May. There's going to be, maybe watch mid-May, there'll be another update. But I haven't traveled as much lately. So yeah, I love following what Google's doing. I don't study the core updates as much now because they all are basically Google just getting better and better at their goal, which is rewarding helpful content. So there's less and less we can glean from it other than just create stuff that's the best for your audience. And,
right.
And then that's how you win.
Right. With that, we come to the end of our show. And to everyone listening, if today's episode sparked new ideas or gave you a roadmap for navigating the future, especially with AI, make sure you follow Dr. Mary Haynes and subscribe to her newsletter for regular updates. I myself have been subscriber to it for more than 6 years now.
Thank you.
And as always, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep tuning into the Agency Insider Show for more expert conversations. Until next time, take care.